What's going on, everybody? And I hope you're enjoying your Monday afternoon so far. NYG Jeffy T85 here, and I'm going to talk about the New York Giants' #1 draft pick that they selected in this past draft after trading up to pick number 24 to select him out of Maryland, and that, of course, is cornerback Deonte Banks out of Maryland, the 6'2", 205-pound cornerback, age 22, and obviously he's not signed his rookie deal yet. You're expecting that to happen soon, but this kid looks like he could become a major difference maker and player going into this secondary for Wink Martindale going forward. And I talked about this earlier in one of the videos I made during the aftermath of the first round in the NFL draft. And I believe Deonte Banks could be the answer at New York Giants cornerback, homegrown drafted, that we have not had since the days of a Corey Webster, a Terrell Thomas, an Aaron Ross, and to maybe a little bit of a lesser degree, a Prince of Mukamara. Right now, Banks, who has played in 30 games overall in 4 seasons with Maryland, where he started 21 of them, and he only played 2 games in 2021 before he suffered a season-ending injury in that season. But he put up Pro Football Focus grades of 69.7 and 60.1 with a combined 22 of 18 receptions, 57.9% for 274 yards, 2 touchdowns, both as a freshman, where he had 1 interception and 3 pass breakups from 2019 to 2020. But in 2022, last year during his senior season, he had a big-time season where he had 38 total tackles, a half tackle for a loss, and 8 pass breakups with an interception and a half sack, and he allowed a passer rating of 71.6 when he was targeted by an opposing quarterback, and just 26 of 16 targets, 43.70% completion percentage for 258 yards, and when throwing his way, he did allow 4 touchdowns though, but his PFF coverage was 74.3 and overall grade was 72, but he was called for 8 penalties. The one thing that worries about a guy like Deonte Banks is when he panics a little bit, he does sometimes to be a little bit too handsy, and he grabs on the outside against the defender, and that could be something that could haunt him going into this NFL season, because referees are going to be paying attention to cornerbacks on the outside, and they're going to especially be targeting these young cornerbacks as players that, they get a little bit too handsy, especially the way they call it now against wide receivers. They will not hesitate to throw a flag on Banks if he gets way too handsy. But the outlook, and this is from BigBlueView for the New York Giants, the outlook that they're talking about when it comes to the New York Football Giants. Banks will likely enter the season as the Giants' starting outside cornerback opposite Adoree Jackson, which makes sense because right now you could honestly say there's nobody on this current roster, unless Banks just absolutely looks awful during training camp. Nobody on this roster other than Adoree Jackson should be playing at the starting cornerback position but Banks. It's a big responsibility for a rookie as the learning curve at cornerback is steep. As we all know, one of the most difficult positions to play coming into the NFL is cornerback. It takes a lot, especially in the new modern NFL, where we know the NFL is more placated towards offense than it is on defense, especially the cornerback position, which is often one of the toughest ones nowadays to play and learn. It's going to be very difficult for Banks to be able to see if he can, minimize that learning curve, which could be very steep. But Banks' performance against Marvin Harrison Jr. opened up many analysts' eyes, giving a tantalizing glimpse of the capabilities he could bring to the NFL level, which the one thing I love about Banks, this kid is aggressive, he's feisty, he's willing to make the open field tackle. He's one of those types of players that has an instinctive, aggressive attitude on the football field, and he's got some pretty good skills in terms of his coverage. He just has to make sure he doesn't panic too much and get too handsy. Still, Banks figures to face growing pains. He did have 8 penalties in 2022 that can translate to a lot of laundry in the NFL level. That's the thing that concerns me. Like I mentioned, gets too handsy, grabs onto people too much. That will be something that referees will be paying attention to with Deonte Banks going into his rookie season. And he has to make sure he does not let that happen going into next year. But GiantsSauceGardner came into the NFL with the same issue. This is a positive. He also was very handsy going into college and had that same issue. But what did he end up doing? He was an all-team, all-pro first team in his rookie year, won the Rookie of the Year of the season, and although he was called for 5 penalties, Banks is not Garnder, but he offers similar athleticism in terms of his relative athletic score, which is 9.99, and he had a 4.35 second 40-yard dash with a 1.49 10-yard split, and he is an aggressive man coverage player. Like I mentioned before, this kid is very aggressive overall in his coverage, but in terms of his lack of ball skills, in terms of his instinctive play on the outside, that could be something that hurts him in the beginning, and it could be a little bit of growing pains with Banks. The one thing that Giants fans, including myself, have to realize with a young player like Deonte Banks, who's only 22, and he's playing one of the most difficult positions to learn in the NFL at cornerback, especially with how the NFL is nowadays, where they are looking for a cornerback to just grab a little bit of that jersey and a little bit of a slight turn for a wide receiver or a tight end. It's going to instantly throw out a flag. Banks has just got to make sure he be careful of that. And for a Giants team that ranked 22nd in pass defense in the DVOA last season, having another cornerback who can man the fort from Wink Martindale's defense is going to make the blitzing a hell of a lot more huge than it was last year. Obviously, we saw what happened with this defense when Adoree Jackson got hurt during the Detroit Lions game on that punt return, and the Giants had to go out there with guys like, Fabian Moreau and Nick McLeod and Cordell Flott while he was young, and the types of players they were throwing out there, Rodarius Williams, Darnay Holmes. Giants defense was never the same, and teams started to attack that secondary, and Wink Martindale had to dial back his blitz packages because the Giants didn't have a true shutdown corner on the outside. Now that you've not only improved the cornerback position with bringing in a Banks, as well as a Trey Hawkins in the 6th round and a Javarius Owens in the 7th round, plus you add in guys like an Amani Oruwariye from the Detroit Lions, free agent pickup. Leonard Johnson, who was from Duke University last year, brought into the team on a rookie type deal. You still have pretty much your same cornerbacks you had last year. Aaron Robinson, as well as Darnay Holmes is still here. Rodarius Williams is still here. Nick McLeod. All these other guys. Cordell Flott is now in his 2nd season. Plus, you brought in other defensive players to help out on defense, like a Rakeem Nunez-Roches and Ashawn Robinson on the defensive line, and Bobby Okereke at linebacker, and you're getting back injured players like a Darian Beavers on defense. Michael McFadden is going to be going into his 2nd season. DJ Davidson will be back. You bring in a Jordan Riley in the 7th round out of Oregon. You're going to be getting more defensive playmakers now on that defense, and it's going to help out somebody like a Deonte Banks learn to get adjusted. Plus, he's going to be going under, which is one of the biggest factors for this Giants team. He's going to be coached under defensive backs coach Jerome Henderson, who is wildly opinionated as one of, if not the best defensive backs coach in the NFL. And what he did last year with a lot of players that were not as skilled as the Giants have now this year, it can only tap into the potential of a player like Deonte Banks going into the season and what it can do for Banks going on beyond for that. And that's why I would be excited for what Banks could bring to this defense and how he could be another one of these players that could take this Giants defense to the next level. But you guys let me know in the comment section what you think about Deonte Banks and his outlook going into 2023, and if he could be the biggest impact rookie on this team for 2023. As always, hit that like button and give a sub to NYG Jeffy T85. More news updates and chatter surrounding the New York Giants. Turn on those bells for notifications of the next video or short dropping on the channel surrounding the New York Giants. If you enjoy the video, please hit that super thanks on the bottom. It's going to be a super thanks just to show your appreciation for the content, and I really appreciate it. It helps the channel grow going forward. And thank you all always for the support that you have given the channel since its inception back in late March of last year. Thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. Take it easy, and as always, let's go New York Football Giants. Together blue, everyone.